how long have you been a member in Yield School?
Um, about 60 days. Yeah. 2 months.
About 60 days, 2 months. Okay. And well, for my team and anyone who watches this recording, do you want to give us a 30-second introduction to yourself?
Um, my name is Tom Eastman. I have been in the pastoral ministry for 50 years. In that time frame, I've been able to enjoy two of my pastorates were 17 years apiece, which is pretty much unheard of, but to have that long of, stays in different churches, been able to gain a lot of trust in the different congregations I've been on. But I will say that the reason why I stayed longer than most do is I'm a father of 6 children, and it was important for me to give them a rooted place to live without moving around a lot. And of course, that, like I said in my email to you, that kind of limited me to probably about a $30,000 salary for that, the highest, and raising 6 children on that salary was really difficult. But I felt encumbered as a pastor to really chase, a financial foundation. I just felt that I needed to be careful. As a pastor, you're limited by how things are perceived. And so, I did a lot of things. My wife and I, we had a retail greenhouse. We had at one time, we had the world's largest geranium collection. We've grown greenhouse tomatoes. I am the master of the $1,000 a month job out on the outside of things. But of course that didn't go very far. But I loved what I did. I spent most of my time helping people. But like everybody may realize, is the small churches and recently have a hard time keeping up. So my denomination allowed me to take my retirement if I went half-time. So now can be considered semi-retired. And when that happened, I basically, for the first time in my whole life, got my head to me and said, okay, now's the time to make up some lost time. What attracted me to Yield School was a broader based spectrum on different areas. And, I saw your video and I said, without really with a desire to step into another, framework, met Avery, and it was quite persuasive, and I said, well, because I was in that time of assessing and what in my life, and I just feel like that there are opportunities, and I have to find them. So I'm kind of outcome based right now, and driven to do as well as I can and understand this whole process. And so that's my journey, is
well,
fighting for my family and still staying connected to the church, because that is my first love and line of work. So
yeah, I will say, as someone who's close with his own father, I do have a lot of respect for someone who would think so long term for the benefit of 6 kids and to set that course.
And 14 grandkids. Yeah. So yeah. So
yeah, that's incredible. So I'm going to ask you some pointed questions.
Very good.
For my benefit when it comes to Yield School. So just to start from the basics, like how did you find out about Yield School?
Just your video on Facebook Reels. So,
And what was it from the ads or from speaking with Avery that got you interested in joining Yield School?
well, just specifically, as I said, after 50 years of dealing with every type of personality, there was a famous study out, and it talked about being able to measure the aurora that's around a person, and and how they come across, and they found out that the greatest point where a person exudes significant, aurora is in authenticity. And when I saw what you had to say and your expertise and your desire, it really come across authentic to me. So, and again, that's measured against 50 people, 1,000 funerals, 300 weddings, thousands of hours of working with people. And I just kind of had cultivated that sense of discernment. So yeah, that's your video and what you wanted to accomplish. And then, of course, I've also known that birds of a feather flock together, and the people that you've been able to join together on your team, reflect that. And that's one truth I found is people tend to surround themselves with people most like themselves. And then with good, authentic people, that makes a good, authentic team. Yeah. So.
Thanks for saying that, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was your biggest problem before joining Yield School, do you think?
When you mean in my investment
When it comes to
yeah,
when it comes to investing in
what
this asset class?
happened with me, as I said, I become very proficient in really maximizing the most yield out of pools. That's just, and what I didn't know is that I was in the little bull run last spring. I didn't know that, you see, and it hit right at the point in time when I was entering pools, and I had a little bit of inheritance, and I maximized that with the pools and stacking my pools together, and making 5 or 6% a day. And it's when the Orca pool in Solana was, I think they were trying to, draw people in with an algorithm that was a little more bountiful than they probably could afford. And I was making $2,500 a day. Well, as I said in my email, I had $10,000 pools, and and it was really working well. And I went to help my son one weekend, and that's when the bottom fell out. When I got back, I just knew that if I wrote it down, it would come back, and I was wrong. Very wrong, and I just didn't understand the crypto cycle. When it contracts, everything contracts. And and so I pretty much went into a 2-month assessment mode. That's what I call it. I mean, but risk does not bother me. Not having it figured out bothers me. So I went to go searching, and I became a little distrustful of the liquidity pools, ALMMs, money making pools. And because like with Orca, I'm always a little conscious of when I believe that people have their finger on the scales behind the scenes. You know what I mean? And so I felt that with Orca. I mean, it was paying, and then all of a sudden it was not paying it. There was no way you could make it work. There was no way you could even squeeze out 0.5% or 1/4%, and it changed. And that's not I mean, I just say it's not fair. It's not fair only because as an inexperienced person, you began realizing that the ground shifts underneath your feet and it has nothing to do with you. You're doing everything that you did in the past. So even when things contracted, I was able to move forward, and when nothing was working at that time, I went into an assessment mode and saying, okay, I need to know more about this before I go another step farther. And so about the time I came out of that, is when I saw your video and I said, okay, and now I need to have a broader understanding of this thing that I'm being a part of. And so,
Mm.
um,
Well, how is Yield School helping you solve that problem?
well, because, like, for example, I was there when the aerodrome guys were on. Um, you know, um, um,
Mm.
I've made a lot of Sean's um, breakout sessions. I listen to DeFi Fridays and listen to the technical parts of that. So what it's done is it's helped me understand that it's just 100% timing. Knowing, sensing, like understanding what I'm seeing. Like, for example, I have a Soulflare wallet, and
Mm.
that Soulfare wallet happens to tell how much each of these meme coins in Solana, and how much they're up and down by percentages all during the day. And so I picked out about 15 landmark, what I would call meme coins and altcoins that I just watch, and I watch for the patterns. That's what I have a knack of doing, is understanding patterns and seeing connections. Like GameStop and AMC, they travel together. It's weird, and some of the altcoins they stay strong, and some of them fade away overnight. And so having a short list of those and watching them over this last 2 months and beginning to realize is that you know um, there's not a lot of predictability. I don't think that there's any technical, application you can make to it. They have a mind of their own. They move. There's no reason why they move. There's no event that causes them to move. And so, but there is a pattern. There is a pattern. I'm not saying it's a pattern in which, you can throw a lot of liquidity at to second guess, but there are patterns. And then, so the problem I had is just to know a broader base understanding, and understanding the other protocols. Um, at some point in time, I talk about why I'm in Solana, and why, even though I went on base, I went in Airdrome some, Uniswap some, but and recently, what I'll talk about soon is I've discovered another product on Solana that to me is paying as well as Orca was at the beginning. So, but the problem is just kind of being in that assessment mode when I saw your video.
Do you think that you've gotten value out of the community and the calls that we do? Do you hear voices of
Absolutely.
reason?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What drew me to Yield School was the idea of identifying early, you know, and, I have Drift and I have XRP. I mean, Callum's already told me his opinion XRP. I'm listening to Yield School very carefully, and I'm putting, some of my equity into that. And that's why I appreciate about Callum, because I'm depending on him to lead me through the Yield School way of things.
How are the calls with Cal going?
Wonderful. Wonderful. I can't think of a better person to have as an advisor. So, yes.
Yeah, he is incredibly sharp. He's this rare combination of knowing the technical details while still having the personal skills to make sure that you're absorbing the information he's trying to get across.
Yeah.
Do you find that as well?
Yes. I mean, just after 50 years of being in ministry, I have a knack about people, and um, just his authenticity is what I appreciate the most. Everything else is great, but just a person that you can trust what he says, and know that his best interest is at heart. Yes,
Cool.
my best
I'm
interest
glad you
is his heart. Yeah. You guys have, man, it's just crazy how much you guys do. 3 or 4 days a week. Sometimes five. And the people you're bringing in, and so. And what I understood, maybe Avery said that I don't know how many members you have,
We've
but
got about 400 now. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the other one has 1,000, and they don't do a fourth of what you do as far as your, you know, community communication all the time.
Who do you think would benefit the most from Yield School?
Well, be, me, honestly, people that basically have this understanding of what I think the traditional markets, the stock market, and all of that. There's just so much built around that you're shielded from actually really knowing it, understanding it. Um, I just think that they want to go from 1 to 10 quicker, and I think that people that look at crypto see it as the ability to, plus the decentralization. Hey man, I got personal custody, of my well-being and moving forward. So those are risk takers. I don't think. I think people who can look around the corner and realize is that there's a lot of people that have their finger on a scale behind the scenes, and maybe those people aren't necessarily looking out for your most well-being, and saying, I want to take some personal responsibility for my future, and if I fail, I'm the one who failed. Um, there hasn't been some bank failure, that took my liquidity, and I had nothing to do with it, but just stand there and watch it happen. So yeah, if I fail, I fail. Take personal response. But there's one other thing that I think most people who will come into this will believe: I failed today, but there's a chance tomorrow. And that's what crypto offers for me. Is, say you get into drift or near, or or layer one, hey, tomorrow you could be back in the game again with a little bit invested. And so it's almost the same people that would go west to prospect for gold. You know what I mean? They just knew that something was there, that they had a shout to try. And that's where I'm at, why I'm doing that. So, and there's not a lot of people like that. Not a lot of people like that.
Yeah. Who we're thinking we want to bring more into Yield School are people with a portfolio in crypto, but it's only on Coinbase, and they don't really have, they're wanting to put money into the market, but they maybe only have an hour or two a week, maybe 3 hours a week. And they can't really tell the difference between Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum or Pepe. They all blend in together.
Right.
And that person, for example, is saying, okay, I believe in the future of crypto and what this technology is going to bring, but I'm not too sure if I want to join Yield School. What would you say to that person sitting on the fence? Either join Yield School or maybe just continue winging it and seeing what happens on Coinbase?
No, I think Yield School, to me, Yield School has this, you've been able to build this kind of, sense of family. There's just a sense of community, and that's huge for me, as my line of work. I'm all about community, and and the people that you've brought in are approachable, and and so yeah, I think that yield school is the best alternative for those types of people, to move them beyond that primary market, and of a secondary market, and so that's why I see yield school being right now, to me, the only alternative for someone like that.
Okay. To that person, would you recommend yield school?
Oh yes, absolutely.